2:02 p.m. Will the interim city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Lister?
Here.
Commissioner Oakley?
Here.
Vice Mayor Douther?
Present.
Mayor Blagg?
Here. Commissioner Hodges has called in and said she has some other pressing business and will not be able to make it, and is an excused absence.
Yes.
Okay. Before we get started, I'd just like to say a few words about Hugh Lamont, who passed away on August 11th. My heart goes out to his wife, Debbie Weinstein. Hugh and Debbie lived in Madeira Beach for 40 years, and I was very fortunate to get to know them in the past couple of years. Hugh loved Madeira Beach. He was an active participant in a lot of city government, and he served on a number of committees. And he served as our mayor from 1988 to 1990. Hugh did so much for our city, and I'm sure he will be missed by all of the lives that he has touched. May he rest in peace. Now on with the agenda. The first item is the title sponsorship of 5,000 donation for the Veterans Boat Parade. Karen Helsinger.
Mayor, while they're coming up, I'd just like to say this is a long-standing event here with the city of Madeira Beach, and something that was sponsored in some prior years. And in the spirit of transparency, we wanted them to just make a brief presentation to the commission to let you know what this event is about and the benefit that it serves to our community. Thank you.
Chairman with Pam, and then this is Karen Helsinger from Media Garage. She's the marketing arm for the parade. We hooked up with her last year, so she was able to help us out with kind of pushing the parade forward. It was kind of lagging a little bit, and Pam and I have been a long-time parade participants, so we jumped in and we were able to kind of kickstart the parade, and we got the backing of Madeira Beach to help us out. So we're just here to thank you and kind of give you a recap of what you got for your $5,000 sponsorship. And Pam's got a little presentation here with the TV commercial that we produced.
What we did, in order to bring more boaters to actually register, as well as have more participants in Phil Rock Park, with the funds the city awarded us last year, we did a television campaign, we did a radio campaign, we had 3 ads in the newspaper, 2 digital billboards, as well as thousands of postcards and many, many banners day of. So when you want to advertise and get your name out there and maximize your efforts on any kind of sponsorship, it's good when you have a 360-degree campaign. And the City of Madeira Beach was the title sponsor, so it was the City of Madeira Beach 20th Veterans Parade. Here's the television commercial that ran on Bright House.
Madeira Beach presents the 20th anniversary of the Veterans Boat Parade. There are 3 ways to salute our veterans on November 12th. 1. Patriotically decorate and enter your boat in the parade at veteransboatparade.org. 2. Join the watch party at these locations. And 3. Host a backyard party. And you can win a Kamado Joe cooker from Pincher Penny. And don't miss the special flyover by the Warbirds of Kissimmee. Parade starts at 11 a.m. Saturday, November 12th. Thank you for your service, veterans.
So this spot ran primarily on Bay News 9 and the History Channel. Bay News 9 and the History Channel. It was definitely of high quality when it played in people's homes. And the spots ran in South Pinellas County, which is around 100,000 households that have Bright House. Here's a radio spot. We partnered with Cox Radio here in town. Maybe.
The City of Madeira Beach presents the 20th anniversary of the Veterans Boat Parade on Saturday, November 12th at 11 a.m. Watch the boat parade at Rock Park, John's
It's a day of technical challenges.
73, Elks 1912, and Madeira Park. For more information, go to veteransboatparade.org. The City of Madeira Beach presents the 20th anniversary of the Veterans Boat Parade on Saturday, November 12th at 11 a.m. Watch the boat parade at Rock Park, Johns Pass, American Legion Post 273, Elks 1912, and Madeira Park. For more information, go to veteransboatparade.org. The City of Madeira Beach presents the 20th anniversary of the Veterans Boat Parade.
I believe in your packets, this sheet right here, it kind of gives a nice recap on, the billboards, how many programs were printed. For example, we printed 2,500 programs, and the City of Madeira Beach not only are on the cover, obviously, as the title sponsor, you even had Perfect Prime ad positioning on the internal front cover. There were 200 T-shirts printed with your logo on it. We sent out 2 press releases. There was a social media campaign. There was a sailboat, huge banner with the City of Madeira Beach, as well as, like I mentioned earlier, radio, TV, postcards, and the beach beacon.
So as you can see, we've elevated the event from what it used to be. It was basically, it started out as just a fun parade, and there wasn't really any funds generated as far as to be able to give back to the veterans. Last year, we were able to give almost $10,000 away to local veteran charities. One of our favorite charities is Heaven on Earth for Veterans, and they provide housing for homeless vets. The operator of that, Carol, and her partner Sheila, Carol's a retired Army colonel. She rehabs houses, puts veterans into the rooms so that they have an address, so they can get their benefits, so they can go to the VA, so they can get mail, houses them for 4 to 6 months, and then lets them get back into the mainstream. We were able to provide them with a $5,000 donation last year, and they were finishing up one of the houses and they couldn't put anybody in there because the roof leaked. So the $5,000 went to put the new roof on the house. And there wasn't a dry eye in the room when we presented them the check. So it was a neat event. It was a great feeling for us to be able to do that. And so that's what the parade has evolved to now, a fundraiser for local veteran charities, as opposed to just a fun way to promote and to celebrate the veterans' contributions to our country. So again, we'd like to thank you for the contribution and the support that you all have been, given us over the years. Are there any other questions?
Again, this was just kind of an informational thing in the spirit of transparency to let the commission know what you guys are about and what you're doing for our community. And we're all about our veterans and salute you and thank you for getting the word out there and doing good things for our military veterans. Thank you very much.
So my question is this something that we can bank on, so to speak, that the donation is good to go, or
Personally,
do we need to vote on it, or is that?
Personally, it's a very worthwhile cause. That would be completely up to the will and discretion of the commission.
Okay.
They cannot take a vote on that this evening, but that said.
And the reason I'm asking and trying to get an idea of if this is something that the commission will go forward with is because Pam and I, and then of course Karen, are all volunteers. So I live in Orlando. I own a house here in Madeira Beach. So there's a lot of time and effort that that I've got to go through, that Karen's got to go through. So we need to know if the city's behind us on this event. If so, then we'll get the wheels going and go forward with what we need to do. This is kind of the seed money to get this event jump started for us this year. So.
Well, the vote takes place on November 12th. 12th, is that right?
September.
September.
September 12th.
September.
September 12th.
Is there any indication from the? Is there any objection that you could see coming up?
We can't vote on that or discuss it or anything like that. Okay. We just take your information now, and then on our next BOC meeting, that's when we vote on it.
Okay.
Yeah, if you'd wish to speak to the commissioners one-on-one outside of the meeting, you can certainly do that to figure out how they lie and if they want to have conversations with you, but that can't be discussed at this.
I got you. I'm just trying to get a feel for whether we need to press on, because we're about 90 days away from the event, and we've got to line up the whole event, basically. So, all right, I appreciate your time.
Right, the funding for this upcoming year has already been approved out of discretionary funds.
Okay.
Upcoming years after that, you'll have to get with the commission
Okay.
during their regular meetings to
So
discuss those issues.
we're good to go then?
Yes,
For
sir.
this year?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, officially, the next presentation is on energy efficiency with Rick Disney and Max Sasser.
Hello? Is it okay if I don't speak into the microphone?
You need to,
I have to?
it's being recorded, so you need to.
Better watch what I say then, huh?
All right.
Well, thank you guys so much for giving us the opportunity to be here. We look forward to hopefully moving forward with the project with you guys. Rick Disney and myself came up here about a couple months back and sat down with Mayor Black and Walt and kind of went through our business model, and they decided, hey, why don't you come back and we'll sit down with Chief, and we sat down with Chief. Chief liked what we had to do, so here we are. So my name is Max Sasser with RWH Energy. We're a green energy developer, and we're a service-disabled veteran-owned small business verified by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. There's 3 of us that are partners. I'm a combat infantry guy myself. I served in both Iraq and Afghanistan, and I do the business development for our company. Our second partner, Brant, was a Marine. He served, our former Marine. What do you guys call yourselves? Brant's a Marine, and he served 2 tours in Afghanistan. He was a crew chief on attack helicopters, and he makes sure that our projects finish on time and on budget. And our third partner, Shane Osborne, is here. Shane was a naval pilot, and Shane was actually the naval pilot that was flying the P-3 spy plane over China that got clipped by a MiG, and it went in a 2-mile tailspin, and Shane gained control of the plane, landed in China, and he was a POW for a while. It was a pretty big international event. And Alec Baldwin actually made a skit on it on SNL. So, tough crowd. So after Shane was released, he flew quite a bit in Iraq and Afghanistan. And after 10 years in the Navy, Shane returned to Nebraska and became the treasurer for the state of Nebraska. And within 14 months, reduced Nebraska's budget by 32%. And Shane, what'd you do after that, Shane? So after that, after office, Shane started several businesses. And Brant and I have worked together for 5 years now in the green energy industry. And Shane saw what we were doing with our last companies and said, hey, why don't we come together, put a service-able veteran-owned business together, and see what we can do. So we started our company February of last year. And currently we're doing projects, and we'll show that here in a second in our past performance slides, but we're doing projects all across the United States. And it's been pretty fun. One reason for our success is we have a mentor-protege relationship with Leidos. And Bill Steen's sitting here with Leidos. Bill's a senior program manager with Leidos in charge of the DOE ESPC IDIQ for the federal government. So Leidos' upper management is cradling the success of our growth. They help with our joint capabilities by providing us engineering support, contract management support, bonding capabilities, financial support, and the wherewithal to get from point A to point B in a project. Last year, Leidos was a $5.2 billion company. They just acquired a big chunk of Lockheed Martin, and this year they'll be right shy of an $11 billion organization. And also, we're very, very passionate in the green energy industry. Brant and myself and Shane, all of us sitting here, and we're also passionate in hiring combat veterans to fill our key positions. I'm actually on the state executive board for the Florida Association of Veteran-Owned Businesses, and I'm also the founder and president of the Space Coast Florida Association of Veteran-Owned Businesses. This is where Rick comes into play with us. Rick, we met Rick and we sat down, and it's pretty fun. Rick's helping us do a lot of business development on the west side of the state, and Rick's a former Marine and LA SWAT and a homicide detective. So we're going to go through, we just went through our introductions. We're going to go through our business model and show you guys who we are, what we do. the milestones of how we go from point A to point B in an energy project, and a conclusion and a group discussion. So our business model is, we come in and we'll engineer energy conservation measures. We'll finance the energy projects. We'll implement the energy projects. We'll keep the payment below the energy savings. We guarantee the energy savings, and there's no effect to the operational budget. There's no outlay of capital, no need for project capitalization, and no deferred maintenance capital requirements. So I'll kind of start over and go through it one more time because I know it's a lot to digest. So the first thing we do is we'll come in and engineer energy conservation measures. What that means is, there might be lighting controls, mechanical controls, anything that we can do to make your facilities more energy efficient. And we finance the project. So as we finance the project, it'll be debt on your books. However, what we do is we keep the payment underneath the energy savings. And with that, we guarantee the savings. So we try to eliminate as much risk as we can to the city. So there's no effect to the operational budget. So if you're paying $1 million a year in your utility expense and you do this project with us, you're still going to pay $1 million a year in your utility expense. If you don't do the project, you're still going to pay $1 million in utility expense. There's no outlay of capital. So that's the risk. That's what's unique with what we do, is there's no outlay of capital. The pre-engineering, we take that risk ourselves. And we're going to go through the milestones in a bit. There's no need for project capitalization because we bring the capital to the table. And we also, for the systems that we install and engineer and design, we are responsible for the deferred maintenance. So there's a quick list. If you guys can look over real quick, that's our combined joint capabilities with Leidos. So right now, we're currently working on a project in Oklahoma City, at Oklahoma City University. It has 56 buildings, and we're doing steam elimination, upgrades to their boilers, variable refrigerant flow, indoor and outdoor LED lighting retrofit, along with building automation controls and an energy management control system. With this project, Leidos is our prime contractor. We're responsible for the indoor and outdoor lighting and lighting controls. And with the lighting, we're showing a 58% reduction in their utility expense. We have a slide that I'll show you here in a little bit, but that's about a $7.5 million project. We're saving the university a little over $700,000 a year. And it's the same concept where we bring the capital to the table, we guarantee the savings, there's no outlay of capital to the university. Also, the reason why the price was a little higher, we added a lot of deferred maintenance into the project, and the university, that's what they wanted. And we actually structured it so that there's a positive cash flow for the university as well. We're currently doing the Department of Veterans Affairs in Birmingham, Alabama. That's a 7-story parking structure. We're reducing their lighting expense by 64%. We're also doing a Social Security Administration building in Birmingham, Alabama. And we're also doing Tulsa County Jails. That's a pretty fun project we're doing right now. We actually just finished commissioning. We did a 500 kW generator system at Yosemite National Park. And we're working on, we finished the engineering on Quality Industries in Tennessee. And in this project, Leidos is going to be our prime contractor as well. And there's several more that we have pre-engineering on that hopefully we're moving forward on pretty soon. So Leidos, we're very, very fortunate to have Leidos as our mentor company. It's collectively, Bill Steen and I have been selected for over $30 million in business across the United States doing energy projects. Bill's division, within the last 5 years, they've closed $300 million in energy projects. Their main client is General Motors. And correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, but I believe Leidos manages about 58 GM plants globally. And just to have Leidos coming in and mentoring us is pretty fun. They also manage 26 or 28 Ford companies across the globe as well. We're currently doing Oklahoma City University together. They also did a big project at the state of Missouri. I don't know too much the details on it, but during our Q&A, maybe if you guys want to ask about it, we can go through it. And they also did a project for the city of New York City. So we're also very fortunate to have a lady named Karen Keeler on our team. Karen Keeler is Senior Vice President for All American Investment Group, and she's the one that specializes and leads the energy performance contracting for this, and you'll see why we're bringing Karen on board to help us with this. And we're actually very fortunate to have her on our team, because she usually does you'll see. So in the last 10 years, she's closed personally over $1 billion in energy performance contracting. She sits on the National Board of Energy Services Coalition. She has, in Florida alone, closed $100 million in performance contracting, and she's also a consultant to the Department of Energy's Energy Performance Contract. And to have her experience on our team as well is pretty. So here's just, if you guys want to take a look, here's some past performance that Karen has done performance contracting in the state of Florida. We feel that we would like to try to come in here and prime this project, and for us to have such a very stout team on our side, it would make you guys feel very, very comfortable. I think you guys know a lot of these cities and municipalities and universities. Good. Okay, here's the slide for Oklahoma City University. Just a And so the milestones. So the first thing that we do is what we call a preliminary assessment, which we do that at our own risk. And what we do is we'll bring engineers in. We'll bring a lighting, electrical engineers. We'll bring in mechanical engineers, maybe some structural for building envelope, and also renewable energy. And we'll walk through your facilities, and I'm going to show you what a preliminary assessment looks like. So this is the executive summary of a preliminary assessment. As you can see, what we're doing is we're creating a baseline. We're like, okay, this is how much you're spending on lighting. This is how much you're spending on HVAC. And to the right, and we quantify that in kWh usage. To the right of that, we say, okay, well, if we do this project, LED lighting retrofit, lighting controls, building automation controls, the total project would be that amount. And you'll have the annual savings to the right of that, and you'll have your simple payback, and we blend them all. And that's just an example. So as a deliverable, we'll give you this. This is the executive summary, and there's like 100 pages or 150 pages behind that show you how we come up with that engineering.
Could you explain that a little bit?
I'm going to go
further, please. I don't know.
Which one, Sergeant Major?
Last, that one right there. Explain that one again, please.
Okay. So let's say we come into this building, and what we'll do is we'll create a baseline. We'll get all your electric bills. We take the preliminary assessment. It's a little bit more, it's not as exact and detailed as the next phase, the investment grade audit. But basically, we're taking a snapshot. We're going to come in here and take a snapshot and say, hey, 20% of this building is used, the lighting is the expense for this building. 50% of it might be HVAC. Another 10% for miscellaneous plug loads, et cetera. So what we'll do is, say lighting right there, we'll say, okay, this is how much you're using annually in kWh for your lighting, okay? And then to the right of that, let's say it's 11 cents a kilowatt hour, we multiply the kWh, and that says this is how much you're paying right now for your lighting, that expense. And then we'll say, okay, if we do an LED, so a retrofit might say, you might have 100-watt bulbs, and we're replacing them with 30-watt LEDs, so we're saving you 70% of your lighting expense. So we quantify that, show you your annual savings, and then we give you your simple payback. Correct. The projected cost? So the projected cost is what it would cost for us to install it, along with the engineering and the equipment, the labor.
When you say the simple payback 2.4,
That's without financing fees.
okay.
So, yes. So that's the first step, and we do that at our own dime, at our own risk. And it's actually a pretty good tool, because if we go here and do that, we can come up present our findings to you and say, you know, there could be a variation of 10, 15%, but if you guys would like to move forward, then the next step we do is an investment grade audit. During the investment grade audit, we bring the same crew of engineers in, except we're putting in data loggers, we're going through things with a fine-tooth comb, and we're getting an exact number. And an investment grade audit is what it means. That means that I can take this piece of engineering and go get financing from a bank. So it's an investment grade. Then we'll present the investment grade audit. You guys would vote on it and say, hey, we want to move forward with this, or we don't. We bring the capital, we bring the financing to the table. Again, it's debt, and the energy savings pays for the finance portion of it. Once we finance it, then we'll procure all the equipment, we'll install it, and we'll commission it. And depending on how we work things out, there's several different options for measurement and verification. There's 4 different methods, actually, that the Department of Energy uses. So that means that every year we're quantifying, hey, no, they did what they said they're going to do, and we give you those findings at the end of every year, or quarterly, however you guys wish. So we'll go to a Q&A session here in a second. So the key takeaways, we're going to come in, we're going to reduce your energy consumption, we're going to reduce your carbon footprint, reduce deferred maintenance, and we're going to reduce your energy dollars. All the while, we're going to have no out-of-pocket expense, no outlay of capital, no effect to the operational budget, no capital budgeting requirements. And we're very, very passionate in finding local veteran-owned businesses to do some of the work, maybe hiring some local veterans. However, we won't, what's the word I'm looking for? Quality. We're always going to have good quality. You know, if somebody doesn't qualify, we're not going to use them. So, and that's it. So, I know there's probably a lot to digest. Yes.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to clarify, or get a little bit background on Leidos. So I'm Bill Steen. I'm a senior program manager at Leidos in our energy group. And as the folks in the office say, I'm the senior program manager because I have a lot of gray hair. So Leidos, as Mac mentioned, we're an $11 billion a year company, and we do a lot of federal work, but we do a lot of work in the commercial space. And within Leidos, there's a slice of us that is energy focused. So we're not an $11 billion a year energy outfit. We're do a lot of work for the federal government, including intelligence and security and other sorts of things. But we have internally, we have goals relative to doing work with small businesses. And part of that doing work with small businesses is that we've learned a long time ago that cultivating through mentor-protege relationships with small businesses, by doing that we end up with a pipeline of good, solid small businesses to do work with. And so we identified these folks and we start working with them and developing them because it makes our life much better when we're able to work with the same small businesses and develop them. So kind of think of our relationship with RWH as sort of like a student driver car. So we got RWH sitting in the student driver at the wheel, and I'm sitting on the right seat with my foot on the brake, kind of giving them directions as to, you know, watch out for this bump up here and so forth. Now, if it's a really big project, as Mac mentioned, we act as the prime. So sometimes we say, you know what, these driving conditions are such that I need to take the wheel. And he sits in the right seat. And then we tell him still what to do and give him guidance as to how to do it. So what, on a project that we're looking at here, we would be providing the oversight for RWH to ensure that, you know, they don't run into the ditch as they're driving along, and we provide that guidance throughout the development and execution of the project. So I just wanted to make sure that, or clarify, I guess, a little bit more our mentor-protege relationship with RWH. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. So, are there any questions? Anything that, I guess, any reservations or? And
you had me at 0. You know, that's all you had to say, that it was no out-of-pocket cost. But I understand the preliminary assessment, and I understand the investment grade audit. But is there The financing, you give me a background on the finances. Is there interest rate? Is it no interest? What are we looking at?
There is an interest rate, so since this is a municipality, it's considered a non-taxable financial instrument. So the rates, depending on also the length, I would say that it would range anywhere from 2.1, 2.2 to 3.5%. There's a lot of determining factors.
So in your spiel, you said there's no out-of-pocket cost for me. So am I going to get that interest rate back at a zero net or not?
We bury, I hate saying that word, we bury the rate into the project.
Okay.
So does that make sense?
Yes, it
So
does.
there's no, yes, sir.
We're having our, obviously our lights replaced on Gulf Boulevard by, contractors. And you don't have any guarantee that Duke Energy is not going to raise their rates in the future. So how do you plan that?
Absolutely. And that, earlier we discussed measurement verification, and there are 4 methods of measurement verification. So let's say if our baseline here is a certain kWh you typically use per year, and let's say that there's a hurricane that hits, and we use this as the headquarters op center for the hurricane. Well, there's going to be a lot of people coming into this building, so, and a lot more energy is going to be used. So we do create that baseline, and it tracks that. So, and did you want to explain the M&V a little bit better than me, Bill, or did that make sense? Okay.
So I think your question is, if utility rates go up, how does that work? Was that your question?
I know the utility rates are going to go up. They always do.
Right.
How do you put that into your assessment that this is going to be a zero cost? Again, you had me at zero.
Yeah, so
you got my attention.
We look at your current rates
Right.
today, and we say that if we install new equipment, you're going to save $100,000 a year in utility bill.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
And so the payments
They're gonna be less than
for the system that we've installed would be less than $100,000. So you have a net positive cash flow based on current utility rates and current consumption. So,
And I understand that completely, but say we're going to replace our ball field lights down here with new digital lights. We're looking at a grant to have that done.
Right.
It's going to lower our energy cost without the project that you just did. So how does that work out? When you give me my quarterly or my annually report, are you specifically staying with just City Hall? Or are you going to give me
no, it would be whatever we have installed, whatever equipment that we've installed would be on that report, on that quarterly
I
report.
understand completely. Are you looking at just doing City Hall, or are you looking at doing a citywide project? What's the scope of the project? Has anybody spoke about that yet?
So right now, we really wanted to get in front of you all and kind of show you what we are and who we are and what we do, and kind of get, I guess, a good feeling that maybe you guys want to move forward. So the next step we would do is come out and do a preliminary assessment. We would get your utility bills, we would get building schematics, your blueprints, your inventory of all your HVAC equipment, and then we would engineer it out and then come back and show you what we would do. But going back, it is,
That's fine.
not interest rates, but if the utility rates go up,
Yeah. That's probably the least of my worries, but
okay.
thank you very much.
Oh, absolutely. We'll broaden the scope. We're actually, when we come here to do the preliminary assessment, we would like to do a citywide type project. So.
I've got a question. I just want to make sure I understand this. So if our electric bill's $1 million a year, just playing with numbers, and you can save us $500,000, then that we would still be paying $1 million, but $500,000 to the electric company, $500,000 to you. Okay, the other thing that you kind of mentioned.
Until it's paid off, and then after that, you save $500,000 a year.
Okay, but then, you know, you were saying the part in there that on one of the projects that, you know, the institution or whatever it was, they were still getting money back. In other words,
correct.
In other words, instead of us paying you $500,000 a year, you know, and paying the electric $500,000, we only pay you $400,000, and then we have another $100,000 in our bank account, so to say.
We could do that as well. So that one with Oklahoma City University, for instance, it was $7.5 million, and we're saving them a little over $700,000 a year. So if you do divide that out with the math, then it would be like a 10 to 11 year payback. Well, what the university decided to do, instead of getting it paid back in 10 to 11 years, then they did it out on a 15-year term, so now they're cash flow positive.
Okay.
And their situation's a little different because it's very complex, the steam elimination, the variable refrigerant flow. So they wanted all this stuff. However, once our contract's up with them, then they go back to taking care and maintaining that equipment. But with it being for 15 years, they wanted that because for the next 15 years, they don't have to spend maintenance dollars. And if you sit down with some, a lot of folks, facilities maintenance officers, their biggest challenge is, wow, this AC unit just broke down, and the hardest thing is jumping through hoops to get it funded to fix it. So while it's under contract with us, we manage that, and we're responsible for the upkeep and the equipment.
Okay.
Stand at parade dress.
Let me just add on to that a little bit. Really what we're going to do after a preliminary assessment is we're going to talk about the project that's there. And we can discuss with Walt how long you want to take this out. Do you want something that's going to be paid off in 5 years, or do you want to go 10 years so you have more positive cash flow? The interest rates are going to be low. I'm guessing, he said, good rate, but probably around 2.5. We can get it in there. So it's going to be a low interest rate, but it really is how strapped for cash is the city. You know, would you rather just get paid off as quick as possible, use all those savings to make the payments, or do you need to free up a few $100,000 or $100,000 a year? It's really going to be your decision. We bring it to you in a transparent spreadsheet. We work with Walt closely. We've had some great conversations already about how this works. The reason we're able to get such low rates is because it's non-taxable, but at the end of the day, do you want to go 10, 12, 13 years, or do you want to do it in 5? And we'll say, here's the different cash flow and how it'll come out. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. How, if you come in and you do your testing or assessment, whatever it is there a possibility, I'm assuming it has been in the past, that, you know, it's really not worth for you guys doing?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Then what happens?
Then we walk away and you owe us nothing.
Okay. That's what I wanted to make.
That's when we say, yeah, that's when we say at risk. We're at risk because it's, you know, it's not going to be for free for us to get all these engineers here.
Right.
But when you look at communities and what we're doing and what we've seen, there's going to be a project here. We just don't know how large.
Okay. Thank you.
So next, any other questions or concerns? Is there?
I just want to say I've seen this presentation 3 times now, and each time I go, this is a win-win, so sounds good.
Kind of the key takeaways again, I'd like to leave with this. Actually, before we go into the key takeaways, at the end of the day, like right now, what we would like, and it doesn't cost the city anything, is for us to do the preliminary assessment. We would be partners with the city. We would ask for, you know, a list of, you know, the last 24 months of utility bills, blueprints, architectural, your inventory list of your HVAC equipment, and I can come in and do a couple things, but once we get this list of equipment, then we can implement the preliminary assessment. So I guess what I'm asking for, I don't know how the system works if you guys kind of vote on it, but it doesn't cost the city anything for us to bring our engineers here and start the preliminary assessment. And that's, without that, there's really not a roadmap of even how to move forward. So that's at the end of the day what we're asking for, is the opportunity to come in and just do a preliminary assessment. But some of the key takeaways, again, we're going to come in and reduce your energy consumption, reduce your carbon footprint, reduce deferred maintenance dollars, and reduce energy dollars with no out-of-pocket expense, no outlay of capital, no effect to the operational budget, no capital budgeting requirements, and employing local veterans. That's it. I'm done.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you guys so much for having us again.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, just follow up on that. Again, it's zero cost to have the evaluation done. We can get that evaluation done and evaluate it by area of the city. If we only wanted to do one certain area, then we could address that. So I think that possibly at least doing the evaluation process would be a plus for the city.
Do we need to have a vote at the next meeting to go forward with that, or can we just go ahead and get the evaluation done?
That can be done by consensus at the board here at the workshop. You can give consensus to have the city manager set that up and go ahead and have that move forward.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I agree.
I say yes.
I think we have a consensus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Next on the agenda is city attorney usage, agenda setting and procedures with Attorney Erica Agella.
Thank you, members of the commission. I understand that, you know, I've only been here a short period of time, and understanding that my role, I've been utilized by staff quite frequently, but not so much by the commission. So I just wanted to go over a few things as to what my job is as the city attorney, and you know, what you can use me for, and some of the things as far as the agenda is concerned, and some of the agenda setting procedures, which I've had some questions with city staff. I do have a memo that I will be sending out to the commission, which is a little bit more detail with regards to what the city attorney's role is. The charter doesn't speak to any real specifics. It gives generalities as to the city, you know, the city attorney is a charter official, and is basically here to prosecute and defend the city and help with legal service matters. But that's a very broad description. So I will send out the memo that's going to give you some more, you know, just to keep handy. So if there's something that you have a question on, you go, oh, well, it's on the memo, so I get to call Erica. And then, of course, if it's not contained in there, if you ever have a question, you know, feel free to call me. I can always clarify one way or the other if that's something I can address, or if it's better addressed by the city manager or department head. But basically, my role with the city is not just to advise the city with its legal matters, but to attend all the city commission meetings and any commission or any board meetings that this commission asks that I attend. I do serve at the pleasure of the commission. So while I do work closely with city staff and the department heads and the city manager, I am here to do your bidding, not theirs. So I take my direction from you, and I'm here to advise you and the city in its legal matters. I am also here to prepare and review all legal contracts between the city and any of its employees, any of its vendors. I am here to review interlocal agreements, to draft resolutions and ordinances. If you hear something out, I know the Vice Mayor has come to me a few times with specific pieces of legislation that he has talked to other cities about, or he has come across from Florida League of Cities. I am here to address those concerns and certainly draft legislation for your approval to have that passed at a Board of Commission meeting. I am also here to protect and defend the city from any complaints that are not otherwise directed to your insurance company. So I know we've had some conversations about some of the litigation that has been brought forth that is being defended by the insurance defense attorney. While I do work closely with Mr. Salzman when he gives me updates on these things, and I'm here to kind of act as a liaison to the commission, my job in the role of defending the city is when it's not otherwise covered by the city commission or the city's insurance policy, or if the commission wishes to institute some type of litigation against some other entity or type of injunctive relief. I also serve the role of prosecuting code enforcement prosecutions in front of the special magistrate. So if you are out and about in the community and you see something you are concerned with, we can always bring that up to code enforcement, and that would be where my role would be with them, is I'm the one that prosecutes those. I also represent the city with regards to variance hearings. That's also before the special magistrate. I also furnish the commission or the city manager, when requested to, any opinions on law. So if you have a question on something that came up recently was impact fees. If you have a question on impact fees, what they do, what they're there for, if we should have them, what we have, that's something you can certainly come to me or go through the city manager, and that can be addressed to me, and I can certainly prepare a legal memorandum that will be distributed to the commission to let you know exactly you know, what the expanse of that topic is, what the legal climate on that topic is, and that way it'll help you to make a better and more informed decision with regards to some type of legislation that you as a body would like to pass to have implemented in the city. I know we've talked about the comprehensive plan a couple of times. It is a very long, future-looking document, and I am becoming immensely familiar with it. So if you have any questions on that or any interpretations of the city code or the city charter, I'm also here to answer those questions. What I am not here to do Fortunately or unfortunately, is if your neighbor is disputing something with you, I cannot help you with that. As much as I might love to, while I serve at the pleasure of the commission, I serve the city of Madeira Beach and not necessarily each of you as individuals. Although I will defend you as a public official in the event that something comes up and you do need that type of service. So not just myself, but my firm, we are a full service firm. So if I can't answer the question, I have people that I can lean on that can answer the question for me. And I try very hard to make good use of the city's money. So our retainer agreements are very expansive. Everything I've just listed, aside from perhaps some litigation, falls within the purview of the retainer. You know, my time here is time that you get from me, whether, you know, you pay for it, whether I'm here or not. So, you know, I'm here. So if you ever have a question and you think, you know, it's going to cost the city extra money, likely it's not. And I'll let you know ahead of time because I'm not here to, you know, to nickel and dime anyone. So, so I just wanted to make sure, especially for, you know, newer members of the commission, that that's my role for you. And when in doubt, always give me a call. I'm available to you whenever you need me. And if I'm not, I'll make sure that somebody else is. My goal is to be here whenever you need me. As far as the agenda is concerned, I know I've had some questions with regards to that. I'm hoping a lot of that will be cleared up once the new clerk is in place. But, you know, as far as the agenda, you well know that any member of the commission can throw something on the agenda. You know, you can certainly put something on there that's to be discussed at a meeting. Whether or not it's going to be on a workshop or whether or not it's going to be on a regular commission meeting, that's something that likely would be determined by the city manager and the clerk as to what position it's better suited at. My opinion is that, you know, and such as the law is, workshops are for discussion only. That's why we don't have anything that's going to be voted on, but it should not necessarily be a precursor to something that's going to be on a regular agenda. Sometimes it needs to be because it's going to be a lengthy discussion and it's a better way to be time effective, but sometimes it's better for those types of things just to go on a regular agenda. If you have any question, my direction would be, of course, to go to the clerk or to the city manager, as they're going to be the ones who are going to be heading up your agenda. But as far as whether, you know, what the proper place is for it, they can always contact me and I can let them know what my legal opinion is on that. While I am here to give legal opinions, I am not here to give administrative opinions. So I may at some point direct you and say that's not actually a legal question, that's something that needs to go to the city manager or needs to be addressed by another department head. But other than that, I am here for any member of the commission that needs me, and I work directly with the city manager and with department heads. In your packet, there was a sign-up sheet. I am here for office hours every other Monday. From 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Of course, you can always call my assistant and set up an appointment outside of that, and I can always come meet you to discuss anything that needs to be discussed. But that sign-up sheet is there for yourselves, for any for any department heads and the city manager to make an appointment, so that you guys can use the best use of my time as well. And that I can review the information prior to the meeting, so I can maybe do a little research and give you a more informed opinion when we do meet. So I just wanted to make sure I put that out there. I feel like, you know, I have been doing quite a bit for the city, but I feel like, you know, I could be doing more if it's of course it's at your pleasure. So if with that, I can answer any questions that you guys might have with regard to my position with the city or the role of the city attorney in general for whoever fills the position. And if not, then of course I can address any other legal concerns at a later date. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the city attorney RFQ fulfillment with Chief O'Neill.
Yes, ma'am. That conversation right there just rolls right into the next item. Our city clerk is actually, or our city attorney is actually in an acting position right now, and I just want to know our direction as far as how we're going to move forward. I know there were some questions from some of the commission on that policy and procedure.
In regards to that, you know, I think Erica's doing a good job, but I think that we need to go back out. The advertisement, I think, from what I was told, that we really legally do not have to advertise.
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, the statute says that legal services are specifically exempt from having to go through the bid process. So they actually don't have to be put out to bid. If you choose to put them out to bid, there's no requirement within the competitive bidding process under the statute that requires any advertisement of any kind. It just has to be put out either in written or electronic form, which it has been. And I believe under the current RFQ, the procedure was that all proposals were to be submitted by August 14th, and that the city manager would put together a committee, determine who would receive an interview, and those applicants would receive written notification within a week of their submission as to whether or not they were going to be interviewed for the position. And I do not know where we are in that process, as I should not know, as I am an applicant to that position.
What I would like to do is open this back up for another 30 days, and because it was under RFP and not RFQs on our website, you know, under the RFP, then it was an RFQ, I understand that. But I've gotten calls, well, when are you guys going to advertise, you know, when? So I think we did a very poor job, and I don't think we're being fair to other possible candidates. And I think we should also at least advertise once in the Tampa Bay Times and once or twice in the Beacon, would be my recommendation at this point.
It sounds reasonable to me. However, I haven't read this is the first time I've seen any of these resumes and applications. We only have 3, and I would think no matter how good they are, it's probably still a good idea to go out and get more than 3 to review.
I agree with you, Mayor. This is the first time I've seen it as well, so I think we should put it back out there.
Well, and for clarification, if you do put it back out there, like I said, the procedure under your RFQ is that the city manager would form a committee and then select candidates from whatever proposals are received, and then interview, and then set up with the commission interviews for those candidates. And then at that time, that's when you would see the application packets for those people. So the first round goes through the city manager with whatever committee he puts together. That's what's set forth in your RFQ. So if you want to change that, that's something
that's fine.
That you would have to do.
I'm good with that.
So Chief, these are the 3 that you received back?
Yes, sir, they are.
What was the length of the advertisement?
30 days?
So we received 3 in 30 days. We want to extend this for another 30 days, John?
Yeah, that's what and then, yes, and then advertise it a little bit better. You know, like I said, on our website, it's under RFPs, not under RFQs. And I think it should go out like in the Tampa Bay Times at least once on a Sunday or something like that, as well as in the Beacon, would be my recommendation.
Thank you, sir. We're obviously doing apples to apples. Everybody's bidding the same thing, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
I have no issue with that.
Perfect. Then we'll put it back out and make sure it's advertised appropriately and the procedures followed. Thank you.
And I would just recommend that for the applicants that have already been submitted, that you submit something in writing to all the applicants, letting them know that that's what's happening, so they know that they have to reapply for the position.
Agreed. Thank you.
All right, next we have the Board of Commissioners Policy Handbook Update / Code of Conduct. Vice Mayor Douthert. And I can say, looking at it, I've got all these, there's a lot that needs to be fixed.
Yes, this was supposed to be done in the first month after we took office. We went through it once at a workshop, and then nothing happened from there. So I guess we need to get this completely updated today. So we're way behind the power curve on getting this done. So I would like to just go through it, and if anybody has any recommended changes, that we do that.
You want to do all this today? Because to me, there's a lot of changes in here.
Well, if we don't, then we're putting it off for another month, and then we put it off for another month. I mean,
Unless you want to have a meeting that's all we do. You know,
I think that would probably be.
Instead of that, we're going to come in, review the book, and then
I think that would be better.
It doesn't take up so much time in this meeting since we have so much on here.
I mean, because I have, you know, like I said, almost every one of these things on here is something that I think needs to be discussed or changed, or, and I don't want to sit here for another 2 hours doing that.
Madam Mayor, if you'd like to set this up under a special workshop and do it before the next regular BOC meeting, we can come to some agreement and then present it at the next BOC meeting.
I think that'd be good.
That's fine with me.
Okay,
That's
great.
fine.
Like next Tuesday or something?
2 weeks from today.
2 weeks from today is the BOC meeting. If we have a special workshop before that, it would have to be next Tuesday.
We can do that.
Okay.
Either way.
Can we do it on the 29th? Would that be agreeable?
When?
Tuesday, the 29th?
Tuesday,
1 week.
at 2 p.m. again?
2 p.m.?
Okay. Any more discussion on that?
I'm looking, Madam Mayor.
Oh, okay.
And are we calling a special workshop or a special meeting?
You tell me.
Well, there's no provision.
Got to be a workshop.
It's a workshop.
I was gonna say,
yeah.
I don't see any provision that allows you to call for a special workshop, but I don't see why we can't just call
Have
for a
another
workshop, yeah.
Okay.
So what time was it?
2 o'clock?
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, because the Tuesday after that's the day after Labor Day, so I don't think we want to come in that day.
Right.
And the 5th is the budget public hearing on the 5th, so we couldn't do it then.
Okay, well, that'll work. All right, next we have ordinance 2017-9, repealing and replacing Division 14, Section 110-940, medical marijuana dispensaries.
Madam Mayor, can we back up for just a second, please?
Certainly.
You know, I just ask all the people on the board here to really kind of go through this before that next Tuesday, so we're not just dragging it out, you know, they read through it, and, you know, so you're ready to come in and discuss any changes that you see that's really needed.
Okay, good idea. Madam Attorney?
Yes, this ordinance, which is in your packet, was, the Vice Mayor had asked me to go ahead and draft a medical marijuana dispensary ban per Florida statutes, and that is what you have there for review. I can answer any questions, but this was done at the direction of the Vice Mayor.
Any questions, discussion?
Well, actually, I think it's a good ban. I don't think it's really necessary in the city of Madeira Beach. We're not a medical mecca, you know. I really think they need to be over like Largo Medical, Bayfront. So I don't think people actually come to the beach to go to a drugstore.
We were just at a conference, and they talked about this, and they're all over the place. They're in strip centers all over the state at this point. A lot of cities have put down that they're allowing one dispensary for every 10,000 residents.
Well, in that case,
Well,
we don't
lose
need
there.
one.
I understand that.
We can have half of one.
I think there's 2 in St. Pete right now and 1 in Clearwater, and they talked about opening 7 more up in between the St. Pete Clearwater area. So there will be a lot in this area.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I look at it too, because like you said, they'll be in Largo, they'll be in Seminole, they'll be in St. Pete, and they'll be, you know, they'll be around the corner.
Is this a Seminole ordinance on the 2017-09?
It is similar to the Seminole ordinance.
Oh, I see.
It is not the same, however. And that actually comes from not a sample ordinance, but basically a draft ordinance that had been circulated throughout the state for different communities wishing to ban it. The other thing too, that I just had the Florida Municipal Attorneys Association had a discussion at a recent CLE about this, and another suggestion made was that including banning, if your community would like to ban it, they should also put in place stricter regulations on pharmaceutical zoning, because how it is in the statute now is you can either choose to ban it or you can regulate it through zoning, but only as you would regulate a pharmacy. The city of Madeira Beach does not specifically regulate pharmacies. The city regulates retail, and a pharmacy is considered retail, like a CVS or a Walgreens. So one of the suggestions made was, because there are going to be changes to this coming up in the next legislative session, was to do what you can now. So if you're going to ban it, or you're not sure if you're going to ban it, because you may not be able to ban it in the future, and at least you're already on the books. You can always repeal a ban, but you can't necessarily in the future be able to put a ban back in. The other suggestion was to go ahead and, if you don't have zoning with regards to pharmacies, perhaps putting in some zoning with regards to pharmacies, or tighten the zoning that you currently have with regard to distances from certain schools, that type of thing. And that way you have that on the books, so if in the future you decide you're going to repeal the ban, you already have the zoning that was allowed under this current version of the amendment, that you can go ahead and rely on that zoning. I was not asked to do that, so I haven't, but that certainly can be discussed, and I can certainly look at implementing some zoning codes with regards to pharmacies, if that's something that you foresee in the future, perhaps wanting to allow them to regulate. If you don't, then, it may not be necessary.
Would that be separate from this, or would it be included in this ordinance?
It would be separate. It would be part of your land development code, it would be part of your zoning, and it would be specific to pharmacies. Not specific to medical marijuana dispensaries, because the ban, once the ban is implemented, if it's implemented, would ban them in their entirety. But if the city ever in the future decided, okay, we'd like to have one here for whatever reason, at least it would be under the current statute, it would be regulated as a pharmacy would, and you would already have that zoning in place. That would allow you to go ahead and regulate it as a pharmacy is regulated, which is the only two things that the city is really allowed to do. Otherwise, everything else is preempted to the state.
Well, how does that affect, like, Walgreens? I mean, Walgreens is directly across the street from the school. So
it doesn't. Any zoning that you put in is not retroactive back to existing buildings. It would be anything after that applies to the city for permitting after the date of the inception of that zoning.
So anybody that's already in is grandfathered, in other words.
Right. Yeah. We can't require a building to follow new zoning when at the time it was built, that zoning didn't apply. So.
Any more discussion?
No. Well, do we need a director to do something with the zoning portion of it?
That's up to you guys.
Do we want to?
Again, I don't think you're going to be able to do anything with the medical marijuana out of the pharmacies anyway. I don't think you can stop them if they want to put them into the pharmacies, if that's what your goal is. I'm not sure if that's your goal, but you're not going to be able to fight the pharmacies. And where they're located, they're going to be located. We can't change them in the future.
Right.
And we can stop them from building one down in Johns Pass if that's what you want to do. But
I was just because she was saying to go that direction, but
again,
I agree with you. I think they're going in the end. The dispensaries are going to end up going away anyway, and it's going to be sold right out of the pharmacy. If you've got a prescription for it, then get it there.
Yeah.
Part of the problem with that is, though, that they talked about at the conference, is that most banks are federally regulated. So dispensaries are a cash business, period. No credit cards, they're all cash. And they cannot put the cash into a bank because the federal government will come in and close them down. Now, the ones here in the state, they have one or two banks they talked about that are not federally regulated, they're state regulated, that they are using those banks to put their cash into. But the medical marijuana industry is strictly a cash business, period. And that's one of the big issues that a lot of places are having, is that much cash on hand and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so right now, we don't need to do anything about the pharmacies. I think that's the consensus, right?
Right.
Okay.
And we just need to announce the ordinances, correct?
It'll just go on the next BOC agenda.
Okay.
All right, next we have the applications for the bid committee. Who has that?
I'll take it. We have names, and we've got enough names. Talking to the city attorney beforehand, basically, we're allowed 5 plus 2 alternates. We don't have the 2 alternates at this point, but we have 5, so we're going to keep the applications open. What I've also asked the city to do, the staff to do, is to come up with a policy handbook for each of the committees. Like, this is what your job entails, or what we need to do, or what we're looking for. So I think that's kind of important, that we, you know, when picking these people, that they know what the heck we're asking them to do.
I think they should be part of that process, though, because they might have some good ideas to put into the book, too.
I think they should come up with their own handbook, and then we can add to it or subtract to it. Let them be the basis of it.
I don't think he's getting quite that specific. I think he's just being, you know, you're working on the charter. That's your process. He's not saying what you do to the charter. We can't get that finite, but what John is saying is they need parameters. You can't give them, okay, you guys go. You know, give them some direction to go in. That's what we're asking.
You know, I think the other thing that we also need to look at, and with the different committees, do we want to have a member from the BOC here to be attached to each of the different,
like a liaison?
That's
to the
in our
committees?
charter. We can't do that.
I believe we've discussed this before, and while the resolutions we didn't specifically put in there, we said that they would come back before the commission and let the commission know where they are. A member of the commission cannot be a part of the committee. If you want to attend any committee meeting, you certainly can. They're public meetings. As far as assigning a commissioner to each of the committees, I mean, now you're basically making a commissioner part of that committee. So unless you're just sitting there listening and not inputting, then that's fine, just as any other member of the public. But it specifically states within the resolution that members of those committees cannot be, you know, city officials, elected officials. So you would not be there to participate. You would just be there to listen. And you could be there to listen and just report back, but you could not be there to participate within that committee.
That's how we did it.
Yeah.
But each commissioner would assign themselves to the library board or whatever, and they would come back and report what happened at the library board meeting. We had zero input. We didn't talk. We just sat there and listened, took notes.
And you can certainly do that.
Basically from that.
You can certainly do that, and you can either decide that amongst yourselves, or you know, you can say this week I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to go do this. That's perfectly fine. But again, like you said, just not have any input and just report back what exactly is going on. And just remember, those committees too have at least 2 of them have a reporting requirement in them for them to come before you and present what they've been up to and what they're doing as well. So.
Right.
I believe, if I recall from reading the policy handbook, it does say something in there that we can go to the meetings, but it's suggested that they'd be better served if we weren't there.
You know, that's another thing too. So your policy handbook, I know you guys are currently working on it to make any suggested changes. And those are guidelines for you to follow. You know, the purpose of not maybe, the purpose of that, I do not know. I was not here when that was written, so I don't know the intention, but I could assume that it was because if you show up at a meeting and they're having a committee meeting, it might be a little intimidating that one of the commissioners is there. You know, if you happen to be the liaison and you're there every single meeting, you know, and you're just sitting in the back and not paying attention, that's fine. I mean, it's within your purview to go ahead and be that person, but again, like we said, no participation. You can't. I would not suggest more than 1 commissioner at those meetings. You know, but it's really up to the board what they want to do, or what you want to do, rather.
Any more comment? So the next 2 items are also committee items. I'm assuming this conversation applies to those 2 as well. Is there any more say about the other 2 committees?
No, I guess we just vote on it all.
Well, we're not voting, so.
At the BOC is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, then we'll go on to number 10, which is Planning Commission term duration. Vice Mayor Douthert.
Basically, last time we voted in the 3 people, but they all can't go out at the same time, according to our rules. So, you know, we have to decide who's at a 2-year, or two of them are 2-year, one's a 3-year, or, go ahead.
No, the planning commission, the section of your code that discusses the planning commission says that they are 3-year terms, all 3-year terms. So they are not staggered terms, but that no two members of the commission can go out, their terms cannot expire within the same year. The way that I believe that it was discussed with me on yesterday, the way that it's currently set up is there are 2 members that will go out in 1 year, 2 members that will go out in another year, and a 3rd regular member who is going to go out in a 3rd and completely different year, was my understanding. Now, that clarification has not been solidified because it's unclear as to who is serving currently and who. I know you just appointed 3 new members, but staff, I believe, is still working on that, and perhaps the city manager can speak to that. But as far as the terms in your charter, it does state that they all serve 3-year terms, just that no more than 2 officers or 2 members their terms cannot expire within the same year.
So right now, looking at this, we've got 3 going out in 19, and we've got 3 going out in 20. So how do we correct that?
And that's different from what was presented to me yesterday. So
Okay.
if this is the correct one, depending upon what is correct, I can tell you that you would have one person, you could assign them a staggered term. The issue becomes you appointed 3 people. So whoever previously served, if they were removed or resigned in the middle of their term, one of the appointees is going to have to fill that slot. And when they fill that slot, they're not appointed for a 3-year term. They're appointed to fill the remainder of that person's term.
Okay.
So my understanding was, from my discussion yesterday, was there were 5 members, 2 terms expired in 1 year, 2 terms expired in another year, and then the 3rd was filling somebody's position. So that would expire in a 3rd year. But that determination, that was the last determination I had by staff. So I'm relying on their information to give my advice.
I'm just going by what's here in the book, and they're showing 1, 2, 3 people going out in 19, 3 people going out in 20, and 1 person going out in 18. So I'm guessing, trying to figure out how we stagger this.
Well, and like I said, that's different than the information I received yesterday. So if one of those persons is filling a term that had not expired, they run out that person's term, which would fix that issue. It would not be a full 3-year term. They're filling somebody's position that termed out, or that resigned prior to their term. If not, then there's nothing that says that you can't just appoint them for a 2-year term. I mean, it shouldn't occur that way, but there's nothing that says that you can't do that.
Okay.
So, but again, I think that we need to nail down exactly, like I said, that was different than what I was given yesterday for my information. So,
so we need to get some better information to figure out what's going on this and make a decision. Because they got them all going out in August of 19, and the other ones are all going out in August of 20. So, I mean, they're even the same month and everything else is what we're looking at with this at this point.
correct. So, again, this person says that their term started 3/16/2017 and ended 8/2017. Whoever fills that person's position basically goes to the end of their term. Again, it's still going to be the same year, but it's going to be a different month. So that might be helpful.
A little of the confusion may come in here because also the Civil Service Board is also in a similar situation as the Planning Commission, and with multiple expired terms, and we're trying to get a handle on those in addition to adding these additional committees on here. So tell you what, if you give me until our next commission meeting, we will have this all resolved, and we'll have these dates written in stone for you.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Next item is the Civil Service Committee. So we're just going to do the same thing for that.
But let's back up on the Civil Service Committee. They have not met in
how long?
A long time. I think it's like 2 years since their last time. that they've met. And there is one opening on that board, and we do have one application for that at this point. It's not on here who the applicant is, but if you go back through these other applicants that's in there, one of them's got to check that they put in for the Civil Service Commission. And basically, this, according to our charter, they're supposed to be a very active thing. They're in our charter and everything else, and what their job description is in the charter. I think we really need to kind of get them moving again. And if, like I said, it's been 2 years. They were scheduled to have one last August, but they never had a meeting. So I think somehow we need to get them moving, and if they don't want to be part of it, then, then we need to go out and recruit other people to be on the Civil Service Board.
Who's the chair? Do we know the chair? Sorry, who's the chair?
Oh, God, I knew that.
Mr. Shaw?
Shaw, yeah, Robert Shaw.
Okay.
How often are they supposed to meet?
That's kind of up to them. If you read in the, it doesn't really say how often they have to meet in the charter. It just says this is their job descriptions. They're supposed to have a job description on every employee. They're supposed to recommend raises and all those kind of things. So they're supposed to be very involved, and it's an ongoing thing. I don't say they have to meet every month or whatever, maybe a couple times, 3 times a year, 4 times a year, whatever the case may be. But like I said, it's been several years, a couple of years since they have met. Is the best we can find.
It's Paul Talca?
No,
Tilko?
Elaine Poe.
Oh, he's on there too.
So
Then there's
2
two
of
of
them.
them.
Okay, so that's 2 of them then. Then we'd have to decide Paul and Elaine.
Okay, Paul and Elaine.
So can you give Mr. Shaw a call, Andrea? Yes. Thanks.
I think Lacey's already talked to him. Yes.
Any more discussion? Okay, next we have the city manager contract. Chief O'Neill?
That would be me. You should have, Eric, could we give them a copy of the contract negotiation?
I forwarded both to Andre and asked her to put them in.
I don't have it.
I don't have it. Yeah, that's all I have.
There will be additional documentation to you, and again, you can't make a decision on it today if you wanted to, so let me give you a rundown of the basic concepts here. You have a curriculum vitae there in front of you. At your next meeting, you will have a detailed resume also attached to that. The bottom line for the contract is the salary range is $135,000 a year. Vacation time is 25 days. Medical leave is 12, and the ICMA contribution is 14%. And this is established the bottom line of this entire contract. Signing this contract, you're actually saving about $55,000 a year over your last contract that you have your city administration. The only area that's increased at all is the ICMA contribution, and that's simply to balance out what the drop program that I will be losing during this time period and to make that whole. I'm open for any questions or comments.
And I would just like to say, there is one provision that was included that Chief O'Neill asked me to put into the city manager's contract, which we've discussed that I would let you guys know that I'm not completely comfortable with. There is a provision that he had me add that basically gives him the option within 24 months of accepting the position, that if he decides he doesn't want the position anymore, then the city would not hold open a position at the fire department, but if there is a position available at the fire department within that 24 months and he chooses not to maintain the role of city manager, that position would be given to him. I don't feel comfortable putting that in the contract. I'm not so sure that it benefits the city, especially since you're looking for a long-term city manager. But we have discussed that's, that was my advice to the commission, is that I don't feel that that's an appropriate provision to put in his contract. But of course, it is up to you to make that determination. And that wording is in there. I did make sure when I added it that I put in that Whatever the position was that was available, he would of course need to be qualified for it, which having been the fire chief, I'm sure he would be. And that he would accept the rate of pay for whatever that position offers the rate of pay. He would not take his city manager pay over to whatever that position was. But that was one concern I had. The rest of the changes that we made to the contract just had to do with salary negotiation and benefits. I put all those in that Chief O'Neill requested, and that's purely up to the commission what you wish to pay him based on his qualifications and what benefits and things you think that he's entitled to or should negotiate within this contract. So that's between you and Chief O'Neill. I can certainly draft that, but from a legal perspective, I was not comfortable with adding the provision with regards to the position at the fire department.
And speaking with the city attorney and further consideration on that comment, that was put in there strictly because of the tumultuous situation that we're running to right now with city government. But speaking with the city attorney, I am completely willing to withdraw that. Also, the other provision is in there is converted annual leave and medical leave into paid time off, and I'm willing, I would like to convert those back just because of the confusion of explaining that type of process. But both of those areas I'd be willing to withdraw from the contract. And we'd have that updated and to you at the next meeting.
Yeah, right. The one provision that we talked about was that instead of having a separate sick pay and vacation pay, it would just be time off. So if Chief was sick one day, he would call, and that would just be considered a time off day. Or if he was just going to go on vacation, it would just all be in one lump bucket instead of separated out into 2 sick pay or vacation day. No, that's purely up to however you want to do it. If you want to regulate how many, I mean, it's going to be a day off. A day off is a day off, but right. From a legal perspective. But if you want to delineate, no, you can only use this many sick days, and then if you are sick in the future, that becomes an unpaid day, I guess. I don't know how your administration would do it. That's probably a question better handled by staff, but it can be done either way from a legal perspective.
Tradition's always had them divided out, and I'm completely fine with that.
Can we put this on hold and put it on the 29th special workshop? Because of the fact we don't have the contract. I would like to see the contract.
I think that's a good idea.
I mean, it's just for discussion purposes anyway,
right.
So.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, next we have the code revisions for redevelopment. Mr. Cerna?
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Throughout the course of our work assisting staff with permits and other applications, we've identified some common issues that continue to arise, which have prevented redevelopment of certain areas of the city. And in these cases, the redevelopment is always something that I think everybody can agree is desirable. It's usually it's always for the same density or lower density development. It's to address properties that are not currently FEMA compliant and would be, and it would also create higher value development. Staff has recently received a letter from GHD Construction addressing some issues, and we've not gone through and identified those specific issues, but there are some other issues that we've seen from time to time that have come up that have been preventing redevelopment. And really, we're just wanting to bring this to the attention of the commissioners, and just if you're willing, if there is consensus to allow staff, and you do have a director now, and we would as a consultant, assist the director with developing code revisions that would address some of these concerns.
I got a lot of questions on this one. First off, I don't know what half of these things are. What I would like to see is, like section 110-206, what is it? I would like to have this broken down to tell me, what I'm looking at and what I'm voting on. That's number one. Number two, I see things in here that that you want to change the width of a lot from 100 feet to 50 feet wide. That's pretty daggone narrow, and that's putting houses or units right on top of one another, and that kind of disturbs me. I think we're going to end up just building on top of one another, and they're going to be long, and reading through this a little bit, you're going to have very narrow, very long pieces, homes, rather than what we have right now. And, but before that, I don't know what most of these sections are, what they mean. And what I would like to see, you know, at our next meeting, maybe even on the 29th, is that you can get us something that says 110-206 is this. And then how, and then the second part of that question is, how is it going to affect the neighbors on either side? You know,
Or front and back.
yeah, or front and back, yeah. So I think we need to look at that to kind of figure this whole thing out. And
Yeah, we purposely did not address the items in the letter. Some of these, I know at least one item in there would be inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, so staff would not support it, and we would have to go through those item by item. And we'd like to do that with the developer and just tell them which ones we think staff would support. We obviously wouldn't support anything that's inconsistent with the comp plan, and you know, things that would change the character of the neighborhood. We would advise you to proceed with caution. But outside of the letter, there are some other issues dealing with your redevelopment section, dealing with your townhouse standards that I think could easily address a lot of the concerns that have arisen. So again, this is really just to discuss redevelopment in general, that there are some code revisions. And I understand there is a lot of items in that letter, but we purposely did not want to address them specifically at this meeting, but would be glad to discuss those in more detail.
you know, one of the few things I understand is, because most of it I don't, I'll be very honest, it talks about an 812 pitch roof. So that is a roof that is extremely steep, very, very steep. So it's cheaper for the builder to build that. I understand that and how that works. But if that roof ever needs to be replaced, that costs like 4 to 5 times what a normal roof costs. So you're putting the burden back on the homeowner down the road. Might be 20 years or 15 years from now, about 15 years in the sun in Florida, before the roof goes bad. Mm-hmm. But you know, that is extremely expensive to change that because of the safety issues involved in a 10-12 pitch. You know, so these are things that I've got concerns about. One of the few things I really understand when I'm reading, you know, so that's why I need a better breakdown in what's going on here.
Yeah, and really we just wanted to put this on your radar as something that could be a priority for you to direct your current staff and, you know, with our assistance based on our background over the last few years to provide you with more information. We certainly would not come back with an ordinance at this point, but address a lot of these specific issues plus some larger issues, basically.
You know, and let me read. I said for the next workshop on the 29th, you know, that's really kind of too, I think, too tight for you to pull all this together. But if we have something like at the next workshop in the end of September, it gives you a month to kind of play with this or figure out what's going on.
And that's really what we were shooting for, is in September. When we discussed with the writers of the letter, we did say we'd like to probably address this in September. But yeah, really, we just really, for this meeting, wanted to put it on your radar.
Thank you.
When looking at the setback thing, they need to take into consideration the weird lot sizes that are in our city. Mm-hmm. I mean, in District 3, there are quite a few houses, and they're backed up back to back already. And if you gave them another 5 feet, they are going to be on top of each other. Mm-hmm. So they need to really take a hard look at what is there and what kind of lots they're talking about, instead of just trying to make it a blanket for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, we really believe that there can be consensus at some point that everybody agrees that these sorts of units that we're talking about should be able to be replaced. But yeah, we definitely don't want to alter the character of that area.
Okay, yeah, because the only other thing I kind of realized from this is when we're pulling them that close together, you know, your house is here, but your soffit is going out another 3 feet from the house. So if it's 5 feet to the fence line or whatever, then that's only really 2 feet because of your soffit area hanging out there. And so I have some concerns with it. Thank you.
Sure, and we'll certainly work on addressing those.
And the real reason, as I understand it, is because the lots are so small that they are not easily redeveloped, and this would allow them to be redeveloped. Is that correct?
Yes, and it would also make it would make them more it would make them FEMA compliant, basically, rather than continuing continuing these uses.
Thank you. Any more comments?
No.
The discussion of positive and productive work environment and morale.
Madam Mayor, I am glad to bring this issue to you. You know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. We have some of the best employees in the city. You know, they come in early, they work late. Maybe whoever's working on the sound system we need to talk to. But for the most part, we have some very motivated employees around here. That's you. And they do a really good job. And the one thing that really kind of gets me is the rumors and innuendos that are going around about, you know, the city workers are going to lose their jobs, they're being unemployed, they're being downsized, they're being right-sized, whatever. I understand the need to validate and the need to ask questions about every department within this city, and we're in the process of evaluating those. But for the most part, our city workers do a very good job, and that their employment is not in jeopardy. They're great employees and doing good things for our city out here. What I do think that we need as a city is some general direction of where we're going. Right now, we're doing what needs to be done, and we're doing everything that we've done in the past. You know, I think now would be a good time for our city to look at setting some goals and objectives, maybe contacting the Vice Mayor had mentioned it before, the Florida League of Cities, to actually have them come in here and do a workshop with us to establish the goals and objectives and where you want to see your city, you know, not only next year, but 5 or 10 years down the road. It's important to have that general direction, and I think that's what our city is looking for. So with that said, I think we're just looking for a general, hey, you guys are doing a great job, your city's doing fine, and we're looking forward to a good future.
Thank you very much. And you're right, the city is doing fine, and everyone that I see is doing a great job, and we're moving forward, and it's a good thing. Any discussion? All right, next we have the ALS First Responder Agreement.
Yes, ma'am. This is our annual first responder agreement that allows us to provide advanced life support services to our community. This is coming to you for approval. It's already been approved at the county level. And it's an increase in our budget of about $44,000. So just to let you know, this will be coming in front of you at the next commission meeting.
Do about that.
On the dialogue, we have a discussion of the Commerce Kiosk at Johns Pass.
Madam Mayor, this agreement was a 5-year agreement that expired back in April and has not been renewed. I understand that there's some additional individuals that are interested in providing service to that area. And with that said, I'll leave it to you.
Well, I haven't had a chance to review the lease, so I think we need to talk about that.
Is anybody here from the chamber?
From the Madeira Beach Treasure Island Chamber? Do you wish to speak about this?
Who does? This is, yep.
Is this on?
You got to get real close to it.
You're real close? Is that good enough? Gregory Tong, Chairman for the Treasure Island Madeira Beach Chamber of Commerce, 245 107th. Sorry about that. We've noticed that this kiosk has been out of lease since April, and we surely do have a great interest in occupying that. We are the Treasure Island and Madeira Beach Chamber of Commerce. We are hyper-local, and we do have the staff to put in there, and I think we can do a great job on that. I think you've seen we've worked well with these two tight-knit communities, and that's really where we're at. We want to move forward with this. The other chambers had it for a few years, for 5 years, if not longer. And again, that lease has expired. And I'm assuming there hasn't been any interest or discussion from that, but we're ready. So if, you know, I don't let my leases expire. So, is there any questions?
You're not currently in there, correct?
That is correct. We are not currently in it.
It's a Tampa Bay area chamber. Right.
Tampa Bay currently has it. They've had it for the past 5 years, and it's my understanding they were only paying $1 a month. Is that correct?
No, I don't think they're paying anything, Madam Mayor.
How much?
I don't think they're paying anything.
They should have been paying $12 a year. That's what went on.
No, I don't think so.
$12
I think we
or-
waived the fee several years ago.
Wave. That's
Yeah.
not even worth it.
Yeah, I think we waived that fee quite a while ago. I've been approached by several businesses that want to move in there, but it's an awfully small building.
It's probably too small for that.
It seems too small. But that being said, you know, Robin called me the other day and wanted to talk about it, and I just didn't have time to do it because she knew that I'd went by and looked at it and asked the lady that was in there, says, you know, what do you think about moving? So I'm sure she went to Robin and said, you know, the city of Madeira Beach is thinking about kicking us out of here because we haven't made any money from that space, but I'm not sure if we really want to. That being said, the Treasure Island Madeira Beach Chamber of Commerce, you know, could definitely go in there, but the Johns Pass Merchants Association could do the same thing. I don't see why it is such a small building, why we can't all work together and, you know, get everybody's signage and that type of stuff up there. It used to be a bus stop. It still is a bus stop. You know, that's
Then who would man it if we all work together?
Well, then it would be easier for people to man it. If Robin wants to send people in on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you guys send somebody in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You know, that might be easier to staff.
It's a possibility.
Sure, and of course, the Johns Pass Merchants Association is right there already. So I think a cooperative effort would be better than saying it's this individually yours and kicking Robin and her crew out, putting Greg and his crew in. I don't think we're gonna get
I think they need to come back with us with a plan of this joint operation.
It's gonna be, Robin wants to keep it. You know, that's what her
I'm sure she
plan is.
does.
Sure, yeah.
I don't think the Johns Pass Association should be too much involved in it since not everyone in Johns Pass is a member of that association.
That's true.
But I would be in favor of a joint between the two chambers. If I were to pick a chamber, I'd probably pick the Madeira Beach Treasure Island Chamber because it is Madeira Beach.
Well, it takes money to advertise, and Robin's budget's much smaller, bigger than the Treasure Island Madeira Beach. Now, that being said, I understand why you're saying that, because you live in Madeira Beach. Right. And I'm the same way. But that being said, it takes money to advertise, and the Tampa Bay Beaches Chambers advertises all over the country. I'm sure you guys try to also, Greg, but, you know, again, it takes money, and I know whose budget's bigger.
Well, when you're the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber,
right?
Of course, you're going to have more of a budget because you're promoting businesses all over the beaches, and not just the beaches, but you know, everywhere. It's not a moneymaker. That's for sure. I'm not sure about the advertising. We all advertise. We have our tourism committees. We are advertising. Are we advertising nationwide? Are we advertising nationwide yet, Missy? Yes, Visit Florida. Missy actually sits on one of the committees. That's why she got here a little bit late today. But again, it's not a moneymaker. It's about us promoting this area and keeping the tight-knit community, bringing people over here to Madeira Beach is something everybody already does anyways. But it's when they walk into that place, everybody's doing a great job getting everybody over to Johns Pass. But who are we going to promote when they come in to that kiosk?
You're going to promote Madeira Beach and Treasure Island.
That is correct.
And the other group would promote all of Tampa Bay, which is fine too, but it is Madeira Beach, as we said. But I agree with Commissioner Oakley that, you know, if both chambers come to us with a proposal and maybe we can work something out one way together or jointly, but that would be the best way to go.
And if the other chamber does not want to cooperate. then we're back to where we're at right now, and the likelihood of that. I'll give it a shot. I don't.
Again, I'm not sure that's true, Greg. I think what the commission just said is bring your proposal in, let's listen to it, and we'll make a decision. And if the Tampa Bay Chamber doesn't want to come in and make a proposal, that obviously is not a good light for them. Okay?
Well, I'll get right on it.
All right, great.
Thank you very much.
We do have one member of the audience who would like to speak, if you're done.
Did y'all have any other questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you very much for.
Thank you.
While the next presenter's coming up, Madam City Attorney, would this have to go out for an RFP?
RFPs only need to go out if the services are over a certain dollar amount. So I would have to know how much, as far as the services are going to cost, and then it would have to go out to RFP. You can put it out to, you can competitive bid anything you wish, but what is required to be competitively bid is based on a dollar amount for contractual services. So that's going to be the determinant as to whether or not this has to go out to bid or not. I think what the commission is seeking is a partnership between the two, and I think that if you're going to do that and the contractual services are underneath, I believe it's $15,000, then I might suggest that perhaps the city manager coordinate that with them to come up with something to bring before the board at a future meeting or a future workshop.
I didn't come here to speak on behalf of the chamber. Oh, sorry, didn't realize you were Doreen Moore, 13019 Boca Ciega Avenue, Madeira Beach. I was here on another matter, but in speaking for the Chamber of Commerce as a long-serving member of the Board of Directors of the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce, I did receive a text from Robin earlier today that apparently this was something, it wasn't on the agenda. No one has spoken with the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber. I know, Terry, you did speak with a staff member there several weeks ago and indicated that the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber was going to be out, and that staff member did take it that way. But I know Robin has called you a couple of times and wanted to speak about it. So I'm just asking on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber, who has been working with the city for many, many years, and has the lease that has expired, is that I think that the comments made here today is that it should be looked at as a cooperative effort, but certainly the opportunity for the chamber, who has been under lease and has worked with the city for a long time, ought to have an opportunity to follow up with that information. They do currently staff that center. It is a paid staffing position, so they are expending money to have someone there who is representing not only the communities in the surrounding area, but the Johns Pass Village and the various merchants who are there. So I just am asking you to take that under advisement, asking both chambers possibly to come back to you, as you said, with a proposal, but give them the opportunity because they weren't even aware that this was going to be addressed today. So thank you.
Madam Mayor, with your direction, I'll be happy to look into both those groups and see if we can develop a cooperative relationship with them moving forward.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then last on the agenda is the city clerk position.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I am sad to report to you that we had a negotiated agreement with a new city clerk that was coming on board on the 5th of this coming month. Due to some personal items, she has now declined the offer, so we're back to square one. So with your direction, we will go out and seek for certified clerks again and bring those back to you as well.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that happen, but things happen and we have no control over it. So I think we just have to go back to square one and do that very thing.
Not on that.
Any more comments about that?
And is there a consensus on that?
I'm sorry?
Is there a consensus on that for?
Consensus?
Yes.
We only had 2 applications when we did this the first time. and that was Ms. Johnson and Ms. Moody from Temple Terrace.
Correct.
Both certified clerks. Can,
I believe we have more
we-
applications, but only 2 that were qualified.
We had more, it's just those 2 were the only ones that were certified.
right, certified, which is absolutely what we need to be looking for. So do you not want to extend another contract to Ms. Moody over in Temple Terrace, or?
We actually reached out to her, and she was very unhappy with not being accepted the first time, and she declined to entertain the opportunity to come back to the city of Madeira Beach.
Thank you,
Yes,
Chief.
sir.
That's all I need to know.
So I believe we have a consensus then.
And before we adjourn, Madam Mayor, I do have one request of the commission. I have spoken with Attorney Salzman. He asked that I request a shade meeting under Chapter 286 of the Florida statutes. As we are in a public meeting, as is required, I'm just asking the commission that, that you give me the opportunity to go ahead and set up a shade meeting for the commission and Attorney Salzman. Do I have a consensus on that? Yes. We haven't scheduled it yet. I have to request it first in the sunshine before we can get that scheduled, so.
Yes.
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 Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Oakley, you have one more item?
Yeah, I have one more. Can y'all do an inventory of the workout facility and find out what equipment's in there and what's not? And let's look more into making it open.
We can definitely look into the inventory, you know, whatever. We'll give you some options, and we'll bring them back for your consideration.
Okay, great, thank you.
Does anybody else have anything else?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
I just would like to put out to everybody, this last week, I was at the Florida League of Cities Conference in Orlando with the chief, and Terry was there. One of the things that you heard we heard pushed constantly the whole time, and I did not know a lot about it, and I learned a lot about it, is the home rule in the state of Florida. Basically what it comes down to is that the state is pushing to take more and more authority away from the cities, from the municipalities, okay? And if we let it keep going, it's going to be, the state's going to be running your cities. And, you know, we'll have no say. They've been taking power away from the cities a little bit at a time, and it needs to stop. What I would like to do is kind of like, for our next meeting and our BOC meeting, is have the, put out something that tells who our legislators are and their senators and everything else for this area, so people can call them and say, hey, listen, you know, we need to work on this home rule. We really need to govern ourselves and not have somebody in Tallahassee who doesn't know anything about us govern us. Terry, you're sitting over there shaking your head yes. Do you agree with what I'm?
For 10 years, I've been fighting, John.
And it's getting really bad. It is really, really getting bad. I knew some of the things. I didn't know to the extent of what's going on right now. So, you know, I'd like to put out a flyer next time, kind of asking all of the residents that come to call the representatives and talk to them about this. And I think we need, as a commission and as a city, we need to get behind this totally and tell Tallahassee to get out of our yard.
I think that's an excellent idea, John, and to reach out to the community and have them, you know, reach out as well. But I spoke to Chief O'Neill this morning about that, and we're going to, there's going to be a resolution for the home rule on the next agenda, the next regular meeting.
Okay.
So,
but I think we need to put something out to the residents also,
right,
so that they can call and say, hey, you know, this is where we stand.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Madam Mayor, I would be remiss if I didn't introduce our newest employee to the city of Madeira Beach, Linda Portel. Would you please step up? She is our new planning director, and she's already doing an outstanding job. She's been here since Monday, so she's still getting her feet wet, but we're proud and very happy to have her on board. So thank you for being here and being part of our city. Thank you.
Welcome. Anything else? All right, and at 3:51, the meeting is adjourned.